Welcome back, darlings. In this week's video, we're going to be looking at the Nilfisk Buddy 2 12 and the Nilfisk Multi 22T to see which one of these is best for car cleaning. So stick around and stay tuned, and you'll be able to get 25% off one of them as well. These are the two most common ones I see used from Nilfisk. And obviously there are lots of other brands out there, but of the Nilfisk ones, these are the two that I see being used most commonly, the Buddy 2 and the Multi 22. This is a 12-litre one, this is 22 litres, they're both 1200 watt motors. Doesn't mean they're necessarily the same motor, bear that in mind. This one costs £100 or $99.99, and this one costs £150, $149.99. However, I can get you 25% off with this. The code's down below in the description, and I'll mention it later on as well. So this brings it down to 75, very compelling. This is also the edition that has the car pack, and to me that's an important one because the car pack comes with extra accessories which are more relevant for detailing your car, and we'll look at those in a lot of detail in a minute. But first, I'm going to talk about the Multi 22 in more detail and get it out of the way because ultimately I think this is the better one for a car detailer. But I want to explain why I've done that, and there's a few bits about here that if you're in a different context, if you do lots of DIY for example as well, actually having this may be a more useful tool for yourself. So let's look at this in a bit more detail. Okay, so the Multi 22 comes with two attachments. One, crevice tool nozzle, and then this multi-section metal tubed extension, as well as a floor head. Now this floor head has a mop bit, so if you're doing wet work, you can scoop it up with that. And it also has a dry brush on the front. And we see that the Buddy 2, that has that, but in two separate heads that you put in, which I think is a benefit for car detailing. We'll get into that a little bit later. You're not really going to use this much in a car, in all fairness, but from a DIY perspective, cleaning up your site, this is a useful feature to have, having it all in one. Now the main thing from a DIY perspective here, bigger capacity, which is good for dust extraction. It also has this power takeoff here, so you can plug your power tool directly into this. So rather than having to have an extension lead to coming out, you can hook it up to this, and then you can put your power tool in there as well. So you only have one power cord that's needed to get the Hoover working, vacuum, sorry, and then you put your power tool in there. This also gives it a capability of doing a soft start when you turn the power tool on. It must work it out by having power draw, I assume, and when it knows that you're drawing, you turn on the power tool, it'll then also turn on the vacuum cleaner, and it will turn it off afterwards, which is a useful feature. And you can turn this socket on separately from the main one, so you can just have the vacuum on, you don't have to have the power live there. It's got a much bigger filter in this than it does in the Buddy 2. Again, I think aimed more for the really heavy dust extraction it's going to be doing. And it also has a filter cleaning function. Again, very useful when you're doing lots of very dusty work. This is clearly aimed firmly at the DIY market, and that's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. They've got the model, the Buddy 2 12, that is focused on the car cleaning, especially in the configuration they've given it to me here. So, with all that in mind, just something to look at on the inside, the massive filter here, huge. When you see this in comparison later, it's massive. And this uses different bags. So this uses a fabric, more like HEPA bag. I don't think it is HEPA approved, but it's that style. Whereas you'll see on the Buddy 2, it uses a paper bag. That pretty much is all I'm going to bother looking at this, because from a car detailing perspective, this is overkill. You don't need it. It's good, very good piece of equipment, but let's go and focus more on the Buddy 2. Now it's time for the star of the show. This is the Buddy 2 12, and I'm going to give you a complete breakdown of what it is before I show you how we go on and use it. Now, this thing comes with a range of attachments which are designed for car cleaning, which is why it's the car pack. This is the particular model I can get you the 25% off, so this would cost you just under £75 direct from Nilfisk. What do you get for your money? Firstly, you get the regular crevice tool. Okay, that's fine, that's the same as the one on the Multi 22. Then you get a little upholstery nozzle. I don't tend to find these that useful. I'm going to talk to you a bit more about that in a minute, but it's there, it's included, and it does help. You also get a brush nozzle. Now these are really useful, I find, great for dusting. This is a particularly soft one. It's very similar to the pneumatic one on the Henry. It's oval in shape, it's really good, great for getting into the seat seams and general dusting around inside the car. I love this. I'm glad it's included. I wouldn't use them on piano black. I wouldn't use any of them on piano black. They're not soft enough. But apart from that, any other surface, absolute winner. Really, really glad that's in there. Then you have this extra long, flexible crevice tool. This is genuinely handy, great for getting down the sides of the seats. It's a bit unwieldy. I would possibly prefer to see a long, rigid nozzle, which you can see in my shots I use. The thing is, being the 35mm hose aperture on this, you can get any tools at Fit Draper or Miele. Now, you don't have to buy a Miele part because they're super expensive, but if you can buy a spares part that fits a Miele, and you can, I've got one, about £8 for a long, rigid crevice tool. However, this is useful. It's very good at getting down the sides of the seats. Bit of a tip for you. See it's slightly curved, probably due to storage, and it's warm as well now in the sun. Use it in the kind of reverse way. So if this is the seat bolster and this is the transmission tunnel here, use it in the reverse as opposed to going this way, or use it both ways, but that will get you complete coverage when you're going down the side of it, just because of the way the head seems to go. Very, very good. You get 2 extension bars. And they're plastic, they're fairly rigid. You're not going to be doing rigorous carpet cleaning with this thing. No, it is what it is. I tend to use one, and I find that very useful for being able to kind of get extension, longer reach on tools like the crevice tool or the brush, and being able to just reach different parts of the interior more easily, which is useful because I'm getting old and stiff. It also comes with a floor head. Again, it comes with, unlike the Multi 22, it comes with 2 separate heads. One which is a squeegee head, and then one which is a bristle brush head. Very gentle. These are for hardwood floors, and this is like sucking up spills. I would say, thanks to Ben from Detail Base for the tip here, the rubber squeegee head does a very good impersonation of a lily brush. Now this, there's a pet hair removal tool, in case you didn't know. Very, very useful if you've got, if you're going over a first pass in the boot or the footwells and stuff like that, where you've got a lot of dog hair. This helps grab some of it, so it makes it easier and gives you less to have to work on later. But talking of pet hair removal and general other dirt removal, this is the best tool I think that comes bundled with it, the turbo brush head. I love these. I have one on the Miele. I'm absolutely sold. If you look at this before and after, this is what the mat looked like before, and these are Tesla Model Y mats, so they're not the best quality. Went over it once with this, and then this is what they look like after, before I was going to do any further cleaning. That's where they're great. Big, loose dirt, dog hair, that sort of stuff. Fantastic at getting up. One tip for you, when you're hoovering away on the mat and you think, oh, I'm done now, either turn this off first or pull the hose out, because this thing keeps spinning around, and if you pick it up, it will fire around any little bits of dirt it's got inside the head out into the rest of the vehicle. Bit annoying, so that'd be my tip. Turn it off and keep it down. A bit like a DA polisher. Now, I mentioned this and saying it wasn't my favourite tool, this little upholstery tool. That's because this is a wet and dry vac, and yet they've given you no nozzles apart from that floor mop head that really leverage that. So I would like to have seen a crevice tool, not crevice tool, sorry, an upholstery extraction tool like this, a spot tool. This is one from Draper. It fits this. It costs £7.50 on Amazon. There's a link to that down below. I much prefer using this to the pneumatic one. So this is one that would fit a Henry or a George, or a Henry Wash, sorry. The angle that you have to use this at, I always found quite awkward, especially when you're doing sides of footwells. So you've got the pole and stuff coming out the top here, and it's really quite awkward, I find. This one operates at a much more oblique angle, so you can really roll it round. It's much smaller aperture, works really nicely, doesn't have all the gump around the back. This, I have to say, is incredible as an upholstery tool on stuff like fabric sofas and things and stairs. Very good for that. This is much better in a car. And then, I guess the direct comparison really is between this and a Henry, right? Henry's retail for about 125. This would normally be 100, but with my discount it's 75. Discount code is Llama 25, down in the description with the link again. Things to consider with this, it is a wet vac. So this is where it really wins out over the Henry, because the Henry is just a dry vacuum cleaner. It also is a blower. So there's a port on the back. It's just friction fitting. So you take the out of the front, which is the suck. I haven't made the joke about vacuum cleaners sucking, have I yet? and then put it in the back, and it becomes a blower. It becomes an incredibly good blower as well, really good. And I put the crevice tool usually on the end, and then it is filtered because there's a dust bag inside and there's a filter. Gets into the next point in a second. I've also purchased, not in this shot here, the additional 4 meter hose on this. I really don't need it for vacuuming, but it's great for blowing. Really, really, really good for using the blow dry, and it's very effective at that. So that was £35. It's not direct from Nilfisk. That's £35 delivered. Again, link to that below. It's not an essential upgrade at all. If you want it, you might find it worthwhile, but you don't have to have it. The biggest downside on this is the short extension lead. The one thing that the Henry has is a massive, massive long lead. That's one of its, I guess, signature traits. This doesn't have that. It's quite short. It's like under 2 meters, I think. Could be wrong, but it's not massively long. However, you can just plug it into an extension lead. This does run on my generator as well, so if you're going to be mobile, works really well for that. It's a domestic unit, so there's no commercial warranty. Worth bearing that in mind. But ultimately, yeah, it's bagged and bagless. It has to be bagless to be wet, obviously, but you can run it wet and dry bagless, or dry it with a bag. That's how I like to do it, because it means when I go for the blowing function, it's not it's not pulling all that dirt through the filter or anything like that. So I like to do that. It's really simple. They're paper bags, which I like because they're more biodegradable. They're super easy to fit and change, and it just then latches back into place and you're good to go. So enough waffling about this thing. Let's go and see it in action. So I'm going to start off with the crevice tool because it's the most commonly used one for any vacuum cleaner in a detailing context. This one's really good. It's got a nice wide aperture as well, so it can take up bigger items of debris, which I found my Miele often got stuck with. And as apart from that, it's just a decent crevice tool. Used in conjunction with the tornado tool, it's really nice. The tornado tool is very good at blowing out very deep bits of dirt, and then this will just suck it off to the top. But it also, used next to it, will stop it blowing it everywhere. One of my favourite tools is this dusting attachment. This is a particularly good one, I think. Fantastic at getting off surface dirt. No, it's not going to be there for getting like really deep cleans. If it's like you've got stuck on goop, you know, you need to spray it and scrub it with a proper detailing brush. But for general lightweight maintenance work, fantastic. Something else that's fantastic is the blower function. I think this is really useful because it means you only have to have one device, especially if this is a wet and dry. You have one device that you can do all of the stuff with, and this is better than most blowers I found. Put the crevice tool on. I've got the 4 meter hose that gives me more reach. Absolutely fantastic. The tip would be point it away from the car when you first turn it on, just to make sure there's nothing that's stuck inside the hose that will then get blown out onto the car. Moving swiftly on, the turbo brush, as I alluded to earlier, I think these are fantastic. They're great at getting big heavy bits of dirt off the carpet. You know, I did these before I took them out as well. You can see my method in this video up here when I do maintenance things. But I love them. I think they're massive time saver. Massive time saver. And then, as I showed earlier, it is a wet vac. So put the right nozzle on it and you can go away and wet vac and extract these mats as much as you like. It's as good as a Henry Wash or a George in terms of its extraction ability. It, of course, doesn't shampoo though. And then the last bit I want to show you is putting on the bags, because actually this it's not difficult, but you need to know how to do it. So these grooves on the thing that the bag attaches to, and you need to know about those because there's a kind of a reciprocating cutout on the bag, which you can see here. Those notches need to line up over the notches or grooves that were on that drop down chute from the top of the motor, which means you have to have the bag turned awkwardly forward so that cardboard tab is pointing forward, and then you lock it down to the side, turning it anti-clockwise, and it's all sealed up. Really easy once you get the hang of it. Onboard storage for 4 items, and it could be any of them, so you can just choose, and then at the very back you can put on some of the downpipe, and you can have all the extension bars hooked in that way. So there we go. Is this a viable alternative to a Henry, or is it just outright good on its own? Yeah, absolutely. Especially even without the discount, it's good. With the discount, it's incredible value considering all the accessories you get, and then the few little optional upgrades don't cost a fortune. The one I really go for is the extractor head, and then you're sorted. It is a great bit of kit. Use the code Llama25 at the link below, and you will get yourself 25% off and have a very, very good time. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.